A thing that I could talk to you about for hours that I think is fascinating is I've become a data nerd over the years because I heard you talk about it where like you could read an article that a guy's talking about how vegetables are terrible and then the next one's vegetables are good. So there's so many opinions. What do you look at? And you look at the science, you look at the data, and then you have to have some level of experience to understand what's kind of bullshit and what's not.
Yeah,
But you
well,
now working at the PI, man, like what are some things from the old days that we might have thought were great ways to train or great ways to take care of ourselves as athletes that the science is now telling us is maybe not true at all?
well, you said a lot there. It's a big question. You've got the data aspect, which is, great and something we should all try to educate ourselves on. There's some good, like, understanding what a p-value is and what, how representative a study is and the quality of it and how many times it's going to be referred to in other articles. So there's a lot of stuff to understanding what study is the study that you should really pay attention to, what journal was it published in, etc. And I've been a part of several studies, and some of them I can tell you, like, wow, are they sure of that data? But I love, for me, it's the fight data because it's not subjective, it's just collective. It's not subjective or even objective or even experimental. It's just the experiment of the fight itself. And people keep changing, and now there's the calf kick, and they need to put in, they've got it broken into leg, body, head. Well, they need leg and lower leg, They need to start specifying because the calf kick changes things, and that comes in. In my opinion, it was the calf kick that actually started Jack Della Matta's downfall. If you think about that fight, it was the calf kick that shut down his boxing, and then Islam Makhachev was able to take him down and beat him up. But it was actually the calf kick that started it all. So, and if you think about, like, basketball now, right? It's a lot of three-pointers and fast breaks. There's not a lot of set offense, or as much as there was back in the 80s. The games are higher because the guys practice the three-pointer. They practice shooting from way out again and again and again. And even if you're only shooting 35% from there, well, there's only a 5 or 10% difference than what you'd shoot in the paint. And you get that 33% extra of the point. So it scientifically makes sense, right? So things change in that regard. If you watch 70% of UFC fights, and this is just me guessing at the percentage, but how many of them seem like boxing in little gloves with low kicks and clinch on the fence? Most of them, right? If you think about it, right? And so it ebbs and flows, and then you get like superior wrestlers that come in and are able to shake guys up. So, again, like what's actually happening in the fight at your weight class? What are the submissions being used? What are the sweeps being attempted? What are the takedowns that are effective or ineffective, So that's really cool. And what that should do is inform your training strategy, right? If you reverse engineer the fight, that's going to set up your training camp. Now, the other piece you touched on was the physiological piece. So I've got these set of skills I need to work on based on the fight, based on my strengths and weaknesses as an athlete, based on my fight history and my performance history, right? How did I do against the takedown? How did I do against the guy with the fast jab, etc.? So now I know this, and then the part is taking this information, what I need, and then putting it across 3 or 6 weeks or 8 weeks and say, all right, how do we improve this skill while maximizing the physiological effect without working into that non-functional overreach, they call it, right? How do I train this skill without making myself more vulnerable to injury, right? And that's where like basic periodization and understanding some stuff about the human body is very, very important. And then everybody to an extent understands their body. Like, we're testing a wearable here, basically, Is my HRV going through the floor? Well, all right, maybe I need to change something. What are the indicators that my training load is too high or too low? It's always a game. You're figuring it out. The most important thing I tell athletes is, what are you tracking? If it's important to you, you should be tracking it. I forget, the guy that runs the PI, Duncan, he says something, I don't know, he says something cool, I forget, but it's something about like, if you're not tracking it, then you have no ability to improve it,
Yeah, I like that, man. You got to measure stuff. It's like KPIs
Yeah.
in business. It's the same things.
Yeah, what is measured can be improved. What you don't know, like so many guys come to me and they tell me, I did X, Y, and Z. I felt great. All right, well, did you really do X, Y, and Z? Or no, I didn't write it down, but I think this is what I did. Oh, jeez. So, and one of the things I preach is write your schedule down on Saturday for the next week. Excuse me, Sunday, write your schedule down, your attempted training plan for the next week, and then kind of keep it as you go. And then Saturday, see what you actually did, how what you actually did matches up with what you thought you were going to do or what you thought was the right thing to do. Maybe you did more. A lot of times you did a little less, or you had an injury, or you changed things slightly, right? So, how can you say I'm going to get better at defending the single leg with the head inside when you're like, well, I don't know how many times I worked that this week. Well, if you worked it 4 times, you're improving it. If you worked it 2 times, you're maintaining it. If you didn't work it, you're getting worse at it. Your skills are degrading, right? So, yeah, I mean, it can be, I was on a call this morning and everybody talks so goddamn fancy and I'm just like, what? Like, so I think kind of the way I explained it's pretty simple, right? Track it. If it feels good, this is what you want to do. If it doesn't feel good, okay, this is what we did. Let's gradually change that until we feel good, until we like the way we are. I was working with an athlete right now and I was like, well, you felt flat for your fight. Okay, what's your warm up? Well, I usually do. Nah. What'd you do? What did you actually do? How long did you do it? Did you wear a heart rate monitor? Like one of the big things for me is, I always say routine makes the extraordinary ordinary. So before a fight, I would always do the same warm-up routine. And before sparring, I would do that warm-up routine every time before I hard sparred, just to kind of simulate that. And so you know how you're going to feel. And then I realized, well, on fight day, I actually only have like a 10 by 10 square foot space. I can't hop up and down the mats and do the drills and do the foot drills and do the, activation stuff I do. So I've got to make it live in that 10 by 10 foot area because that's what it's going to be on fight night. So that's what I need to change in sparring, right? You don't change sparring, you change it to be more like the fight. You can't change the fight to be like, you know what, actually, I'd rather if we had 2-minute rounds between, we need a 2-minute break between rounds, or hell, let's just shorten the rounds themselves, You can't do that, right? So you have to make sure that you're doing what you're going to be, again, it's just how close to competition can you get without getting injured? And that's something else you're trying to do. And then it does get a little complicated. How many times in a week can I do that at what level? Hey, that was me saying it very simply too. I could get my buddy to come tell you the same thing. It'll take 35 minutes and you'll be like, oh geez.